we go back, like, you didn't really have any juice. No one wanted you. Out of high school, you couldn't even get a scholarship. You couldn't even get someone to look at you.
I sat down with him and I said, Dad, I really want to play college baseball, but no one's coming. He goes, no one's coming, Sean. You want to go play college baseball? You got to start playing offense, not defense, and quit waiting for somebody to come. What adjustment can I make here to not look out there at these great pitchers and think that they're better than me? Yeah. So what I said was, I've been facing a pitching machine since I was 14 years old. As soon as it leaves those guys' hand, whether it's Randy Johnson, Greg Max, John Smoltz, I told myself mentally, it's now a pitching machine. I just have to be able to get my process so well that when the ball comes into an area over the plate, that I got to be ready to square it up. I still got a shot if I can control my controllables, if I can control me. So it becomes that me versus me game.
It's more impressive. You weren't natural.
No.
You had to learn the swing. You had to grind.
My
gosh, like,
yeah.
and I love knowing you weren't natural, now, to be honest with you. Welcome back, everybody. My guest today played 12 years in the major leagues. Let me just tell you something. He could flat mash. This dude could hit. I used to watch him going, that's the natural. They should call him the natural. But then the more I got to know his story, turns out it wasn't natural, that he worked really hard to build this incredible swing, 3-time All-Star. And I'm just telling you guys, any of you that know baseball, this dude could flat out hit. But today we're going to talk about, you got someone here that played in the big leagues and the major leagues that long. There's a mental aspect to what they did and how they live and what they do now that got them there. So we're going to talk about peak performance today and overcoming adversity, all kinds of incredible stuff with Sean Casey. Casey, welcome to the show, brother.
Ed, thanks for having me on, dude. So fired up to be here, brother.
You came all the way in. You flew from Pennsylvania to be here today. So thank you for being here. I know you got a lot of family stuff going right now.
Dude, I just wanted to say, too, like, before we get going, like, listening to your podcast, dude, like, who's the guy, who's the voice of, like, welcome to Ed Mylett? Who is that guy? The guy that does, like, he introduces your show.
He used to do.
It's incredible.
Yeah, he used to do something for the NFL, and I heard his voice. This is way back in the day. It's so funny. 7 years ago, I told my team, I don't know who that dude is. I want that voice saying my name.
That's so great.
And what's funny about that thing is that even to this day, he still can't say Mylett correctly. It's welcome to the Ed Mylett show. He still doesn't even say my name right, but his voice is so good. I'm like, okay, he can just say he says my name wrong on my own show. But he says it with such a great voice. I'm like, let's just leave it. Every time he does the takes, I'm like, can you get him to say Mylett? And like, no, it's Mylett. Whatever. Anyway. So I want to go back to the beginning with you. Yeah. So Michael Jordan's got this amazing story that everyone throws around that, he ends up being the greatest of all time, but he didn't even, make his varsity team his sophomore year. There's this great story. And it's a great story. But the guy went to North Carolina, had a bunch of scholarship offers. You, on the other hand, when I say this guy could hit, I mean, other big league baseball players envied your swing and just were, you're just a remarkable hitter and player. But in high school, we go back, like, you didn't really have any juice. No one wanted you. Out of high school, you couldn't even get a scholarship. You couldn't even get someone to look at you. I want you all to think about this that are listening. Wherever you are in your life right now, you're like, no one knows me. Nothing's happening. This dude couldn't even get someone to come scout him. Never mind even offer you money. No one even come look, right? Is that true?
No, I mean, it's funny. We were talking about, you're out in California. You got, hey, we had 9 dudes from our high school get drafted. I'm like, what? I haven't seen 9 scouts in my life in Pittsburgh.
Incredible.
You know what I mean? It was incredible. Yeah. So, it's a great story. And as I look back, and I think we were talking earlier, like, my dad's in a place right now where has gone through 2 open heart surgeries and all this stuff. So, even more like he and I have connected and we've kind of gone back down memory lane. And, it's funny when I look back at, growing up in Pittsburgh, like, I was one of the better players, probably 10, 11, 12. You know how that goes. Then you go to the bigger fields, 13, 14. And so I remember being 14 years old and I didn't play it all freshman year. And I'm like, man, why am I not playing at all?
You didn't play?
Like, I played a little bit. I was like, hey, Casey, get in there and pinch hit. And I'm like, what? So didn't really play much, played a little bit here and there. And I remember, like, a few games into the year going to my dad and being like, hey, Dad, help me out here. You know what I mean? Like, you know how good I am.
Yeah.
You saw me hitting bombs when I was 12, just crushing balls like 220 in a gap. You know what I mean? Like dominating. You know, and I'm like, and I you know that I should be starting as a freshman. Freshman baseball. And he's like, and I was like, do you think you could go talk to the coach? That would, that'd be just help me out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get your dad to kind of snowplow in there, and
a lot of guys do that.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think back now as a dad, and I know you do too, Ed, is the conversation you have with your kid. Like, man, am I enabling my kids? I feel like you disable people when you enable them. Am I enabling my kids sometimes? Am I making it too easy? And do I say no enough to maybe sometimes for a lesson, right? And like, so when I look back at this conversation, had my dad gone and talked to the coach, we're not even talking.
Yeah, isn't that incredible?
We're not even talking.
So he says no.
So my dad says no. He's like, you know what, Sean? I'm not going to talk to the coach. He goes, one thing I will say is the kid that's playing ahead of you, I don't think he's better than you, but you're not glaringly better than him. Wow. You're not glaringly better than him. He goes, if you want to start playing, then you got to start taking accountability for who you are as a player and for who you are as, putting in the work. Wow. He goes, there's a batting cage that just opened up in the town next to us. He goes, I'll make you a deal. He goes, I'll buy you as many tokens as you want, as long as you hit every day. As soon as you stop hitting, the deal's off.
I love your dad.
Yeah, it was incredible. And I said, you know what? You got a deal, Dad. He goes, you got to start being accountable for who you are and putting in the work. And Ed, dude, I started falling in love. I went to the cages. I went to this batting cage. It was Grand Slam USA, and you remember Grand Slam when they first came out. And I look back like things you're grateful for. I literally, my gratitude journal recently was like, I'm so grateful that guy Dick Thomas decided to put a Grand Slam USA in the town next to me in Pittsburgh.
Wow.
It's incredible when you think back at your life. You know what I mean? So I end up meeting a guy on Tuesday nights named Frank Porco. Never ever played college baseball, but he was a hitting instructor.
I wanted to ask you that. So this guy that helped you didn't even play college baseball?
Didn't play college baseball, just a high school, and he was making some money on the side. But Ed, talk about divine intervention. Yeah. This guy knew hitting. This guy knew hitting, and all the years I played in the big leagues and all the hitting coaches I've been around, I still feel like Frank Porco in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, was the best coach. Wow. So I would go to him every Tuesday night. My dad didn't make a lot of money. He was a chemical salesman, making like $33,000 a year, So I knew those tokens were a big deal. Yeah. I didn't take that for granted. I knew those tokens. I knew the deal was a big deal, right? So I would go every Tuesday night, hit with Frank Porco for 30 minutes, 5:30, 6 o'clock, $20. It's a lot more now. It's not $20, but $20. And then I would just stay, man. And I became obsessed with the mechanics of a swing, all because I wanted to play JV baseball. That's crazy. All because I wanted to start my sophomore year, really, right? And it's just, when I look back and how you talk about just like the compound pounding, the marginal gains, like I could see myself getting like a little bit better every time. Like, oh man, my front shoulder's staying a little better. I'm really driving off my backside. So next year it comes along and my dad was right. He's like, man, this is going to work. So sophomore year I start JV. Right. And I'm like, wow, this is working. My dad's right. Like, it's that, and he was always telling me, you want to, and I was like, well, I want to play college baseball one day. And I was like, all right, preparation, meeting, opportunity. Like, be ashamed one day, Sean, if the opportunity came along and you weren't prepared. I'm like, and I kind of took that stuff to heart. It was just such great lessons. So my sophomore year, hitting every day still. I didn't play any other sports. I did play some football and basketball, but by my sophomore year, I was just playing baseball. But I hit every day after school. Next thing you know, I'm junior year, I'm starting varsity. And then senior year, I'm starting varsity. Now I'm a good hitter, though, Ed.
Yeah, now you
now
can
I'm like,
rake. Now
this works.
Yeah, yeah.
This doing stuff every day, like those invisible games, he really do work. And I was driving balls all over the park. So we get to my senior year, man, and kind of another just a great lesson from my dad. He had just started a new company called Casey Chemical. He's been waiting to do it. He's 50 years old now. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna start it. It was he was like a middleman for for selling surfactant chemicals, right? Okay. And so I saw how much he grinded. I saw like the work ethic that he put in, and I could see now what he was talking about 3 years earlier. So. And we every month I'd come home from school and he would be, hey, time to send out the network marketing. Yeah. He's like, we got 5,000 letters, Shawnee. Get those lips ready because you're going to be licking those envelopes and sending them off. And we would send them out. He would say, hey, listen, if we get 3 or 4 people to come back, we got a sale. We're going to pay the bills. And that was like the kind of the thought process, right? Wow. So during my senior year, I had no college scholarship offers, not Division I, Division II, Division III, right? Just like they weren't there. And remember back in high school, you'd go to those tryouts where the big league teams would come and then you'd run the 60, and that's why you're getting drafted. He was like, this Mylett can fly. You know what I mean? They're like, this Casey, like, does he have a disease we don't know about? Guy looks like he's ice skating in quicksand. You know what I mean? They're like, so I'd run the 60, 7.4, 7.5. I'd come back at you after the trial. I'm like, oh yeah, when are we gonna hit? And they're like, all right, these guys are coming back for day 2.
Yeah.
And they'd go down the list. I'd be like, and I'm like, Casey, I think you left off Sean Casey. Like, no, you're not on the list. 7.45. We'll see you next time. Go to the Royals tryout next week. I'm like, so dude, it was like so frustrating because I'm like, is this a track tryout or are we gonna hit? We're not gonna hit, I guess, right?
Baseball.
So my dad at that point, I was getting not many looks. And my dad said, you know what, Sean? I sat down with him and I said, Dad, I really want to play college baseball, but no one's coming. And he goes, no one is going to come. He goes, no one's coming, Sean. He says, you want to go play college baseball? You got to start playing offense, not defense, and quit waiting for somebody to come. He's like, how about tomorrow? You come home from school, you come up to my office, Casey Chemical. You sit down with me. We're going to write 30 letters. You're going to write the 30 schools that you want to go to. Division II, Division III, wherever you want. So I come home from school that day. I'm kind of fired up. Yeah. I got a game plan. I sit down with my dad. He goes, here we go. So bam, I write the first one to Penn State. Next one to Clemson. Then I'm writing to College of Worcester. I'm writing whoever will listen. Yep. I just opened my mind. I'm like, I'm going to play in the big leagues one day, but I got to get to a college first.
Why did your face change when you started to talk about your dad writing the letter? I'm just curious. Like, your face changed a little bit.
You know what? Because it fires me up. I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful. It just, I'm 48 now. So you're grateful for those. You're grateful when you look back when you're 18 years old, 17 years old, and you got a dad that's willing to stand next to you when you're grinding. Yeah. You know what I mean? That when it's not, when everyone tells you you're too slow, you're this and that, you got the guy next to you say, you can do it. Yeah. Why not you? Yeah.
I told you the truth too, right? Like, hey, no one's coming.
Hey, bro, no one's coming. And and I think that's the reality of it. Yeah. That was the reality of it. Like, and I get, I was like, when you fight with reality, you only lose 100%. I'm like, they're not. Yeah. He's like, so we sit down and write these 30.
It's amazing. I just got to tell you, like, you're getting me. Like, I don't know why my eyes are watering, but like, I know that was like, you're not here if you don't write those letters. You're not. I know they're going to hear it in a minute, but like, you're not here if your dad doesn't stand by you. You're not here if. Yeah. You don't play offense. He doesn't tell you, no one's coming, Shawnee. No one's coming.
No one's coming.
It's just amazing how moments in life can define us, right?
That's what I mean. Like, even with my kids, I'm like, God, I hope I'm saying the right stuff. Dude, don't you feel that way? Like, yes. I hope I'm giving the right lessons. I hope I'm not just snow plowing, the road for them and making sure everything's smooth. You know what I mean? Because the adversity that I had was that's where I got my advantages, right? So
you write the letters.
So I write the letters, dude. Write 30 letters. Right before I'm done, I get up to go. He goes, hey, sit back down. He goes, got one more letter. He goes, University of Richmond sent you a flyer. I'm like, a flyer? Now it's like social media. These kids are like, hey, look at my swing. Check me out. Look, I got millions of followers. Yeah. They're like, hey, University of Richmond sent you a flyer last year from the Keystone State Games. Why don't you send them one too? So, bam, last letter, University of Richmond. Dear University of Richmond, thanks for the flyer. Yeah. Right. I really think I can play there. You know what I mean? Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. So, bam, season goes on, dude. And I'm still hitting every day after school, and I'm having a great year. We end up winning the championship that year at my school, Upper St. Clair. But with 4 games to go, brother. And it's incredible how this works. First at bat, I remember we're playing this team called Montour. I get a pitch middle away, bam, rocket left center. I'm like, let's go. A couple ribbies, Next pitch, get a pitch middle and bam, right center. So I'm 4 for 4, 8 RBIs, and 4 doubles. And bro, like you could probably look back at your high school career, college career, and the games. Yeah. There's a handful of them where you're like, absolutely. Dude, that's incredible. Yeah. That was my greatest high school game ever. Yeah. Hands down, no doubt about it, 100%. So Jerry Malarkey, who's the coach at Upper St. Clair, I'm running out to play first for the 7th inning. We're dominating his team. He's like, hey, Case. He's like, man, you've had a heck of a game. He goes, how many hits you got? I go, 4 hits, man. He goes, how many ribbies I got? I got 8 ribbies, Jerry. He goes, yeah, you know what? That's great. He goes, you see the guy behind the backstop right there? That's Mark McQueen. Just drove 6 hours from the University of Richmond to come see you play. And I was like, are you serious? He's like, yeah, he wants to talk to you after the game.
Oh, my gosh.
So after the game, I went over.
Preparation meant opportunity, right?
Preparation meeting opportunity. And I remember thinking to my dad, like, Dad, what's this preparation meeting opportunity stuff? Are you BSing here? Because I don't see any opportunities,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But he's like, he was always adamant, one's going to come. One's going to show up, you know? And I went over to Mark McQueen, shook his hand. He said, hey, man, he's like, really like your swing. You know, he goes, let me get back to you tomorrow. So he went back to Coach Atkins back in Richmond, called me, offered me $1,000 scholarship. And I think at the time Richmond was like 30 grand. My dad made 33 grand. I was like, Dad, what are we going to do? He's like, we'll figure it out. We'll take a second mortgage on the house. We'll get some financial aid. So I went to University of Richmond, brother, on the only offer that I had from those letters that I sent out, because playing offense and not defense, right?
Oh, my gosh.
You know? Yeah, incredible. I go to University of Richmond.
Are you all hearing this? Just so you know, the end of the story is this man plays 12 years in the major leagues, is one of the greatest hitters over a decade in the major leagues, multiple all-star teams. This dude got no looks. No look. If you feel like you're missing your, like, are you hearing this? He gets $1,000, and all due respect to University of Richmond, all due respect. But this is not like Arizona State either, right?
Dude, it's a mid-major.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
This isn't like big time.
It's incredible. Go ahead. It's incredible.
Incredible. So I go to University of Richmond. Hadn't even seen the school. Show up first day with my buddy Jay Adams. Hey, man. Hey, nice campus. You know, you're taking 45 visits.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, Ed Mylett, let's
Yeah.
get him. This guy's going to be leading off for us for 3 years. We got boom, 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 Pac-10, SEC. I'm like, hey, great campus.
Yeah, and
you
I'm
know?
interviewing you now, just so you know. And you're the one who played 12 years in the big leagues, so
Incredible,
it all works out okay.
How life works
You're
out.
on my show talking about your big league career.
Isn't that incredible?
It's incredible.
It's incredible how life works out. It's so true. So I go to University of Richmond, bro. I end up starting my freshman year, have a good freshman year, freshman All-American. Like, you know, I mean, in that you know, but I'm still developing as a player. My sophomore year, I do well, and I go to the Cape Cod League. And you obviously know that's your ticket. If you can get to the Cape, you know, and that year Todd Helton was there, Darren Erstad was there, Mike Lowell, some good players, right? Have a really good summer, hit like 340 with the wood bat, you know, almost, you know, lead league in RBIs. And the only reason I say that is because it's the part of the story. I go back my junior year, and I hit 461, and I led Division I NCAA baseball in batting. 461, incredible. So I think back to 3 years earlier, or 6 years, 7 years earlier, I'm asking my dad to go talk to the freshman high school coach because I'm not playing. And he just gives me the lesson of, you got to work harder. You got to put the time in. You got to start being accountable for what you do. Set new routines. What are your habits after school? All that stuff. And then for me, it started to develop. Like, I look back and like, 7 years later,
gosh,
with like you talk about the compound pounding, that pinata effect of the invisible games, all that stuff. 7 years later, in the NCAA Division I champion.
That is freaking incredible.
And I become a second-round pick of the Cleveland Indians.
That is incredible. You know what? The other thing I want to say to you, I want just to hear this. Forget baseball. Forget it. We're not even talking about baseball, even though we're talking about baseball right now. To go from you're not any discernibly different than the dude starting in front of you, your own dad is telling you, you're not that much better than this guy.
Yeah.
And the freshman team, to 7 years later, you lead the planet in all of NCAA baseball in hitting and become a second-round draft pick to professional baseball. And then get there. And by the way, guys, in baseball, that doesn't mean you're going to the big leagues. Right. Then he actually gets to the big leagues. And then to get in the big leagues and stay is almost unheard of. And then not just to stay, that's just mind-blowing, right? Like, and here's the part for me, because I was a fan of yours.
Yeah.
He had such a beautiful swing, you guys, and I would refer to you as the natural.
Yeah, thank you.
But you know what? The way you actually did it's more impressive. You weren't natural.
No.
You had to learn the swing. You had to grind. You had to take extra BP and extra BP and extra BP and how to hit a curveball and how to hit a ball away and how to hit one up in the zone and not have a hole in your swing. Because when you get to the big leagues, you're like, this dude can't hit it middle in or wherever,
and we
right?
just infiltrate there.
My gosh. And I love knowing you weren't natural now, to be honest with you. Because you know your swing was so, it was just respected by most people in baseball. Okay, so let's go back for a second here. I want to just I'm so excited to hear this story because I know it's going to give hope to so many different people. Was there ever a point where you knew you were good? I mean this, you knew you could rake, but even when you got to pro ball, was there still this dude that I didn't make I didn't start as a freshman. I played JV as a sophomore. No one even looked at me. I got $1,000 to go to a mid-major. Did you ever have that imposter type syndrome, or did you get to the point where you're like, Because I would watch dudes like you because I wasn't as good as you.
Yeah, yeah.
I would watch dudes like you and go, they just know something about themselves I don't know. I always felt like guys like you knew something, or did you struggle with, I don't know that I belong here either?
Well, dude, I think throughout life we all have that inner critic that's like, hey man, you're not fast enough. Hey man, you had no offers. Hey man, you don't play good enough defense. You don't do this and that. And it's like, no, like, I think one of the biggest things for me, Ed, was, my dad, again, go back to a quick story.
Yeah.
My dad bought 3 books for me when I was a junior in high school. Incredible. I wasn't a big reader then. I love to read now, but I wasn't a big reader then. He bought me, and I'm sure you've read these books too. The Art of Hitting 300 by Ted Williams, I believe. The Charlie Lau book.
Yeah.
And then he bought me the Mental Game of Baseball by Carl Keel and Harvey Dorfman. For whatever reason, bro, I fell in love with that Mental Game of Baseball with Harvey Dorfman.
Here we go, everybody.
And what I started to do was in my free periods in high school, I'd go and I'd highlight.
Did you really?
Yeah, it's incredible. And I'm not kidding when I say this. I read that book, not kidding, from when I was 16 years old till I retired when I was 34. I read it every day.
Did you?
Now I read the whole book, but I did go to parts. Like I remember there was one part, he would talk about, just big on the breath, right? Get your breath. Your breath is going to connect you to your body and your mind. Like, so if you want to live in that moment and reset a pitch, you got to breathe. So I'm 16 years old. Okay, got to breathe. You know what I mean? Got to breathe. Process, not results. Process, not results. It was in the book, right? And he said, focus on the task at hand. Well, I'm a 16-year-old kid, and I'm like, but I was like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Like, take a deep breath, focus on the task at hand. And then I started to learn the process of an at-bat. Like, hunt the fastball, look middle away, react in, all that stuff. But because of those things when I was 16, I started to see that they were working in the game.
Interesting.
I'm like, oh my gosh, when I take action on these principles, they actually work.
You know what's different too is like I read that book too, but I didn't read it every day.
Right.
And I wonder, had I done that, like the mental side of the game, the process, not results part, I really struggled with. Right. When I wasn't getting results, it crushed me. Yeah. Didn't matter if I was lining out 6 times in a row. I'm like, I was 0 for 6, whatever it was. Like the results part of it. So many people allow the negative result that's happening in their life to derail the process.
Right.
And they don't stick with their process, or they don't evolve their process. It's true. A lot of you out there right now, you're driving to some sales call, and you know what? If it doesn't go well, if the result isn't good, you trash your process, or you don't build a new process.
Right.
It happens in everything. It happens in every area of life. So the difference was you kept reading it. You kept staying on those things.
I stayed on it.
What about pressure? I'm curious for you. Did you feel pressure? I have to imagine an at-bat on a Thursday in the middle of the season, if you're not in the race, is different than an at-bat getting ready to play in the postseason, or were they the same to you all the time?
Dude, right when you say that, I have a bat that pops into my head. To go like general, you felt pressure, but I also felt like pressure is all in my mind. Yeah. Pressure is all whatever perspective I want to put on this at bat or whatever. That's on me. So I got to be able to control that. I go back to an at bat in the World Series, bro. I was so fortunate, like even to say some of these stories, and dude, being a baseball player, and obviously you're this unbelievable entrepreneur. You've done so many great things, but I know deep down you're that little kid that loves baseball. And
100%.
You know what I mean? So like to play in the World Series in 2006 was just so incredible. It was like the dream within the dream, right? Dream within the dream. So in the 9th inning in that series, this is my 9th year in the big leagues now too. So I'm like, I remember telling Justin Verlander, who was a rookie that year, and Curtis Granderson, I pulled him aside. I pulled Verlander aside and said, hey, listen, don't take this for granted. You may never be back here again. I go, this is my 9th year in the big leagues. I have a couple more years left, and I'm going to be gone. There's not a second that goes by with batting practice, grounders, whatever I'm doing in the fall classic that I don't say, thank you, God.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Thank you, God, right? Yeah. Right? So, and Verlander a few years ago mentioned that. He said, I remember when Sean Casey grabbed me and said, don't ever take it for granted because you never know. So here I am it's Game 5, tough situation with St. Louis. We're down 3-1. Adam Wainwright at the time was a closer. Right, comes in, he's throwing about 98.
He closed?
Yeah, he closed for that year.
98?
His rookie year.
That's crazy.
Yeah, dude, he threw gas.
Right.
98, good hook.
Okay.
Good changeup, right? So I remember just, I was ready for those moments because I was like, I'm ready. Like I've done the work all these years and I have a process. Like so sure enough, bro, first pitch changeup, first pitch heater, I take it for 0-1. Next pitch, he throws me a changeup, I swing and miss 0-2. I step out, Ed. Now there's 1 out in the 9th. We're down 4-2 in the game, right? If they're 2 outs away from the World Series in St. Louis, right? So I step out. The the roar of the crowd was so deafening that it was the first time in my career I was like, whoa! I felt a ringing in my ear, like, and I stopped and I looked out and I was like, what is that sound?
Wow.
What is that sound? That roar? It was a roar of a community saying, we're 2 outs away and you're one of them, and we're about to we want to win a world championship. We want to punch you out.
Yep.
So I remember stepping out, felt the ringing in my ears, and I felt the energy of 60,000 voices, right? Like, and all of a sudden, I remember thinking to myself, oh man, I got to go back to I got to hear the one voice that I need, and that's the voice that's put in the work. That's the voice that has the process. That's the voice that 14-year-old kid, when he wasn't good enough, he now is, because he put in the work, right? And I remember sitting there going, get back to the moment. You know, and I always say, like, I have a buddy of mine said, well, how do I do this breathing stuff? I go, dude, if you can do it in front of 60,000 people in the world, you could do it in your kitchen. Right. you could get it together in your kitchen. So I remember stepping out and thinking, okay, I got to really get back my breath, because I got to get back into this moment, because I'm done. If I stay in this chaos, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. So I took a deep breath. I got back in, and I really slowed myself down. Next pitch, bam, I get 1 and 2 ball. So I get it back to 2-2. And the same process. I step out, I take a deep breath, I get in the box, I go through my process. Look middle away, react in. Look middle away, hunt the heater, look middle away, react in. Bam, I get it to 3-2. I think he throws a fastball up and away, and I'm thinking to myself, I got him. I got him now. Because I'm back. This crowd's irrelevant, right? And Ed, you know too, I get fired up talking about this, but baseball is golf in a team environment. Yeah. And you work with enough golfers to know, you know what? Hey, bro, if you don't have your stuff together, if you haven't done the work mentally, hey, bro, you're in trouble. You're on an island. You're on an island by yourself.
Nowhere to go.
And dude, the inner trust that I had in myself, the confidence that I had, and when you asked me about that, the confidence, was there any doubt? After all the years of putting in the work, being in that situation with that crowd and everything like that, when I was 3-2 on Wainwright, I was like, I'm so glad. I have so much confidence right now in just this moment. I just have to hunt the fastball. I got to get a pitch to hit, and I got to do my job. And sure enough, he throws me a fastball. I hit one of the hardest balls probably ever hit. Bullet in the gap, off the wall, end up getting a double. But the reason I tell that story is because when you start getting a protocol for life or a process for life, and you work it and you master it, it works. Yeah. And it works in baseball. It works in life. It works wherever you want to work it, right? It works if you work it. And like, that's for me. I look back at that at bat and say, was there pressure? Yeah. But guess what? I went internal, and I actually controlled what I can control. And let's get it on.
Dude, I have been doing this show for 1 billion years. There's like 5 times I want to run through a freaking wall. And I do right now because, like, 1, that's freaking awesome. And 2, the application is way beyond baseball. The application is, you got to get internal. You got to rely on the work you've done. You've got to believe in that moment you deserve it, that you've put it in. That's the other thing about baseball, though. Gosh, that fires me up, dude. Fires me up. Jim Rome is who told us we should do this today, our mutual buddy, Jim Rome.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you, Jimmy. The world is thanking you right now because of all these lessons that your career leaves. Everyone listening to this, man, if you're not where you want in your dream, I hope this gives you some hope. I also hope it gives you a process. And he's telling you that the difference was all the reps that he put in on the physical side, but then also the mental reps of being ready for the moments when they present themselves, because that is the separator. I promise you, with all the athletes I work with, there's a point where your physical skills in business, in parenting, in sports just will not be enough. And the separator is going to be those mental things. And the crazy thing about the mental preparation for life, business, whatever it is it's so random when it shows up. It's not as obvious as it is. Like, it's just this, oh my gosh, am I ready or not in this moment? Oh my gosh, am I equipped to handle it emotionally? And or can I rise to this occasion when I need to? It's amazing. The mental part of the game is invisible, the game of life, and when it shows up is also invisible. You don't know when you'll need it, but you'll need it. And if it's not there, that's why you become average. That's why you're not sitting on someone's podcast. That's why you don't play 12 years. That's why you're just another dude growing up who was a pretty good high school baseball player. Another guy who went to play college baseball, was a really good hitter. Just whatever happened to that guy. Right. That guy bombs. Because that was the difference. Yeah. The difference is these mental reps and then to stay. Yeah. The other part of baseball, though, is that it's a failure-based game. I mean, like, if you're really, really good and you're a great hitter, right? Yeah. You're successful. I mean, 30% of the time, you're dealing with failure 70%. I actually think because I was an okay player and not like a great player like you, I actually think baseball did equip me for life in many ways because of all the failure. And you have a good saying for what failure is, and I want to give you the grace to share it with everybody. But to just talk about that part of baseball, failing, what failure means to you and what you did with it, because that's part of life too, but it's really pronounced in baseball.
Yeah. Failure's feedback. At the end of the day, failure's feedback. Like you can, first off, in baseball and in life, if you start taking your failures personally, well, then you become the victim. Like, man, I just can't do it. And it's this guy's fault and this guy's fault. It's like, no, man, it's feedback. Yeah. What are we going to do with it? Yeah. What are we going to do with the feedback that we just got? Are we going to run and hide or are we going to run for it? Yeah. Right? Like, like I always say, like the Navy SEALs, they feel gunfire, they run for it. Yeah. Like, who's doing that? Yeah. Like, and you think of baseball, like, hey, man, failure's feedback. Failure's information. It's only a failure if you fail to learn. Harvey Dorfman used to tell me that.
You ended up becoming a friend
incredible.
of his.
A couple years into the big leagues, I called him. I just called him. I was 2003. I was like, I cannot end my career without not having met Harvey Dorfman to tell him what.
This is the guy who wrote the book that changed his life.
The Mental Game of Baseball. Yeah. So I called him and I'm like, hey, Harvey, my name's Sean Casey. I know who you are. You got a sweet swing. I'm like, oh yeah. Sometimes you meet people, you're like, this guy knows who I am. What I mean? Yes. And so I ended up working with Harvey. And one of the greatest stories was, I remember I was in 2004. I was really having a great year. Probably like beginning of June, I was hitting like 390, which is like, that's incredible, right? And I went a time was 0 for 12, right? Went 0 for 12, but I was like you said, 0 for 6 with 6 lineouts. I had probably 11 lineouts. I called Harvey one night, and what I loved about Harvey, he broke through your. He was like, dude, like, I kind of don't want to call me if you got something good, but if you don't, I'm gonna let you know. So I was like, I picked up the phone I was like, I think this is good. I think right. He answers the phone. He's down in North Carolina. Hey, hello. I'm like, hey, Harvey, it's Case. I was like, hey, bro, can I talk to you real quick? He's like, yeah. What do you got? I was like, man, I'm just grinding right now. 0 for my last 12. He's like, all right, break it down for me. What do you got your last 12 at bats? So I'm like, all right, first at bat, rocket in the gap. Jim Edmonds, makes a ridiculous play. Next one, it shot the first, guy, So I've had 12 at bats, but 11, rockets. He's like, listen. He goes, your job, and he turns into like that, like crudgy old guy. Your job is to focus on the process. Your job is to make sure you take a deep breath every pitch to get ready for that next pitch. Your job is to hit the ball hard every time up. Sounds like you're doing your job. I'll talk to you later. And he hung up on me. I was like, let's go. Because he knew you can't believe the failure. Yeah. You can't believe, you have to take the failure. You have to make the, and the adversity in baseball and life, make it, why don't you look forward and say, that's going to make me stronger. Yes. That's going to make me stronger. You know what I mean?
I always looked at it like if I were batting, like I was a leadoff hitter, so I try to take a lot of pitches for other guys too. I wanted to get as much info. Right. It's really interesting. The big leagues now, like that's not really the thing anymore, that leadoff guys can still strike out all the time. Like I never wanted to strike out, but
I feel like it's going back that way though.
Well, you would know because we're going to talk about that in a minute. He's also a broadcaster for the MLB network, so he's still very much involved. That's a whole other part of his life. But I would try to get information. But like if I did go 0 for 1, even if I grounded out to short first at bat, I'm like, okay, he's trying to work me away. His breaking ball does this. He can't locate his changeup. Like I download information from the at bat. And I watched the World Series last night. We're recording this. The World Series is happening. Probably by the time it comes out, it may be over. Right. The big tall dude for Philadelphia 2 nights ago,
Alec Bohm.
He hit the home run.
Yeah, Alec Bohm.
He home run. And they said something to him, like they interviewed him during the game, and they said to him, hey, what did Bryce Harper say to you? Because Bryce had come over and said, and he said, I'm not going to tell you what he said to me. But what had happened was Harper had actually got out the at-bat before, but he downloaded from that failure feedback that he gave it to Bone, right? So that's part of what failure should be. When you miss a sales call, it's not like I suck. It's like, okay, what did I not say? Where did I miss? Did I not hear something? Where did we lose the energy? Where did I lose the connection? In parenting, when I've done stuff with my kids that haven't worked, I'm looking at the feedback. Like, how could I have said this differently? How could I have phrased it differently? When I walked in the room, was my physiology intimidating to my kids? Was I loving? Like, failure is feedback. I love that term, and baseball forces that on you. Because if you don't get feedback from your failure as a hitter or a pitcher, right, if you don't get feedback from that failure, you're not going to last very long. right? You're
You're
going to have
gone.
to figure that
Can
stuff
I tell you
out.
one quick
Yeah.
just quick story?
Please.
When I go back to my rookie, it was my second year, my rookie year in the big leagues. I faced Randy Johnson for the first time. You know, you go back 6'11".
Yeah.
You know, he's with the Diamondbacks at the time. You know, just throwing behind you, and
Lefty on lefty.
just lefty on
throwing
lefty.
gas.
I was literally up there like,
Yeah.
oh my god. I was like, if these are the pitchers in the big leagues,
My
I'm going to be
God.
out of here
Yeah,
soon,
luckily
right?
they weren't all like that.
It was
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah.
So I remember going 0 for 4 with him with a couple punch outs. And I remember thinking, man, that's Randy Johnson. He's one of the best lefties ever. I got his baseball card. You know, that's where my mind was going.
Yeah.
We faced Maddox a couple days later. He cars me up, slices and dices me 1-2. He, you know, 2-seamer at my hip. I've never seen that in my life.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I screamed. I was like, ah! You know? They're like, strike 3.
That's so
right?
awesome.
So I remember having a conversation with myself like, wow, I'm getting feedback here that I'm looking at these guys that I'm putting them too much on a pedestal.
Yeah.
I got to get back to controlling the controllables of what I can do, right?
There you go.
So this is what I said. I started to think, okay, what adjustment can I make here to not look out there at these great pitchers and think that they're so much better than me?
Yeah.
So what I said was, I've been facing a pitching machine since I was 14 years old. As soon as it leaves those guys' hand, whether it's Randy Johnson, Greg Maddox, John Smoltz, I told myself mentally, it's now a pitching machine, right? I just have to be able to get my process so well that when the ball comes into an area over the plate, that I got to be ready to square it up. So whether it's leaving it at a 3/4 lefty that's 6'11", throwing 100 or 93-mile-an-hour slider,
Very good.
if it comes across the plate, I still got a shot if I can control my controllables, if I can control me.
Yes.
So it becomes that me versus me game.
Your brother, I love this.
Do you agree with that?
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
See, guys, one of the things Sean's doing, we're going to talk about in a little bit, is he's got something called Think Like a Pro, where you're going to be able to start to get guys like him specifically, their insights on how to apply these things in life. Yeah. And what you just said is, like, anytime I've got something that overwhelms me, I try to get internal. What are the things that I can control? Even like when I'm speaking and there's like 15 speakers on an agenda. Oh, they're going to love this guy. Who's going up before me?
Right.
You know,
Right.
I remember even when I played, I'd be worried about, even in college, like, oh, it's Friday night. I get their A starter. Who are they throwing tonight? Oh, I hope he's not a lefty, or, you know, whatever. Right?
Exactly.
And I started to, I go, no, the bottom line is when the ball leaves his hand, it's me and the ball.
It's
right?
you.
And I have a fighter, I won't say who, but he's fighting in the next few weeks, one of my UFC guys. And he sent me a voice note the other night because we couldn't reach you. And I'd say this to all of you to listen, just because I wish I knew everything I know about coaching top performers back when I was young, because they're human beings. And they actually have a lot of the same worries, anxieties, fears, insecurities that you have. They've just come up with processes, and they get feedback from their failures. The thing Sean is saying is a fact. And so he says to me, he goes, here's the truth, bro. I'm scared. He said to me, I'm scared. I'm afraid. And I'm worried. This is the best opponent I've ever faced. And, you know, I'm just relying on my training and the things we talked about and some of the mental triggers. I give these guys different mental triggers and anchors that you did when you hit as well, that baseball players know about, that a lot of athletes don't. And I said back to him in the voice note, because we couldn't reach her, I said, hey, just remember this, man. He's scared too. And he's about to face a badass man himself. And he's facing the best fighter he's ever fought in his life. So we can't control that, but we can control is what we feel internally. So just know this. Other people are afraid when they give a speech. Other people are worried. Other people are, when they're not sure they're going to make it. They're not sure. Just realize this, that like the things you think you suffer from that are just yours emotionally, your fears, your anxieties, are human. And the top people, I'm talking about people that have run big countries, run big companies, that 12-year MLB studs, right? Like the best UFC fighters, the best boxers, the best putters I've worked with, the best golfers. They all have these thoughts that you have. Yeah. But they come up with coping mechanisms. They come up with things that they can play offense in their life. Yeah. They deal with failure better. And I just have to wonder, in your case, like your humility level, I don't know, good guys never know they're good guys. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're a good guy. Like, you got voted something, the award of like the nicest dude in
friendliest
baseball.
player in baseball.
Yeah, like that type of thing. But do you think your temperament, this is important, emotional control matters in everything. Like, I have found the people that last long-term at things have a level of emotional control that people that are flashes in the pan or just all-out failing don't have. Do you think your temperament, your maybe possibly optimistic, friendly temperament helped you? Yeah. Or have you ever even thought about that before? Because you're not like most athletes. You weren't when you played. Even when you played, I remember other guys I knew that played like, dude, Shawnee's a good dude. You know what I mean? Like, do you think your temperament matters?
What was funny was I love first base because I could talk to the guy. You know what I mean? I'm like, hey, what's up, dude?
Right.
And I'm talking to the umpires, first base coach. But I did in my mind think like, when I get in that box,
your face just changed again.
I'm gonna rip your head off.
Yeah.
Like it was a weird. Like, I don't mean that. Like you know what I'm saying. I guess you just had to think that way.
Yes, of course.
You know that's how that's how you thought. But like, I do think the fact that there was that my positive attitude helped me through the struggles at times. You know, it helped me to. What I would always look at the glass is half full. Right. I just would be like, okay. And I remember when I was coming up in the minor leagues, people would say, hey, you're struggling. You're afraid. I remember this interview when it was in AA in Akron. And I used to tell myself, hey, the storm's coming. That's good. That's good, but the storm's coming. And whatever I told, that was a little trick. It was a game I played with myself.
Very good.
And I would just say, hey, the storm's coming. Like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm coming.
Yeah.
And I'm coming tomorrow. Well, so-and-so's on the mound. Good. Because I'm coming for him.
What's interesting?
I played those games with myself.
Now that I'm in your presence, you're more intense than I knew. Meaning I knew that you were passionate, but like your face changes multiple times. When you talked about your dad, your face changed. You talked about that defining moment, and when you just talked about that. Yeah. So there's a switch that you flip. Yeah. Part of baseball that's different than other sports is the duration of the season.
Right.
It's a long
such a grind.
It's by the way, you play 160 games in like 180 something days. Like it's nuts, right? Or whatever it is. 100, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's a long season. So I have to think I think baseball is the sport that could teach you the most lessons that apply to business, because you do have to have some emotional control, right? You do have to. You can't get crazy high. Now, the postseason's different. Like if anyone's watching baseball right now, like it's almost a different game. Like the way the managers manage the bullpen. Right. Everything's just heightened, different pitches, getting guys on base, runs, all these things are different. But in general, the sport is a long season. It's not like the NFL, there's 17 games. Forever there was 16 games. You got to peak those 16 games. That's it. So what's the difference with the emotional control in baseball that applies, do you think, life or business?
Well, I think the biggest thing is like it's a one day at a time thing. It's a one pitch at a time thing. So like if I go out there and how you evaluate yourself at times, it can't be so result oriented that you just fly off the handle, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I could go out there and feel great and go 0 for 4 and like hit a couple balls hard, maybe get dominated. Those guys are good out there too. They're gonna dominate me some nights. I'm like, wow, what just happened there? But knowing that I'm playing the next night, that I got the process I have, I'm gonna go one pitch at a time again, and I'm just gonna keep doing that night in and night out, in and night out, and I'm not gonna waste a pitch, right? And I think that's the biggest thing. I remember being at the All-Star game in 2004. I'm sitting in the food room. It's Mike Piazza, me, and Scott Rowland. Incredible. Now, every time you go to an All-Star game, you're like, Muhammad Ali just come in. I'm like, hey, there's Muhammad Ali.
No way.
Barry Bonds, all these guys. And then you're like, George Bush came in to talk. Man, Mr. President, how you doing? Hey, Sean, how you doing? I was like, yes, he knows my name. It was like another one of those moments, right? So we're sitting in the food room, bro, and it's like me, Piazza, and Rowland. Now, Scott Rowland at the time is the third baseman for the Cardinals. And Pujols is the best player in the game. Him and Bonds are the best players. But Pujols he's just different. How he hits the ball to right center. He's hitting 350, but he's hitting 40 homers. It was impressive. And I said, Scott, what is it, man? What's the difference between Albert Pujols and us? We're all stars. We're all here, but he's a little bit better than all of us. He goes, Case, never seen anything like it. He goes, it could be 9-0 in the middle of July on a Tuesday night. He's the last 2 outs in the ninth, and he'll put together a 12 pitch at bat, and then hit a bullet to right for a hit. Guy never wastes a pitch. He never wastes a pitch. And then I fast forward, and you fast forward 20 years, and that was 2004 when he was 3 years in the big leagues. You fast forward, he just hit 700.
It's unbelievable.
He just hit 700. He's one of the greatest players ever. He's got over 3,000 hits. He's got 700 bombs, 700 doubles. And you look. I think back to that story, and I go, are you kidding me? I go, the people that are at the top, they don't waste a pitch. They don't waste a call. They don't waste a morning not to work out. They don't make they do it day in and day out. And their habits, their routines, their processes are at an elite level. And that's how you get Albert Pujols. And that's how you get Miguel Cabrera. And that's how you get some of these dudes. Mike Trout. They're just a little bit different than the guys at the All-Star game.
Yeah, that's crazy. And you think about that, you guys. Everyone who plays the sport, everyone who plays in high school, then plays some form of college ball, then to rookie ball, single A, double A, triple A, gets to the big leagues, stays in the big leagues. Then a smaller group's an all-star. Then a very smaller group's a repeat all-star. And then you got guys that are like Hall of Fame players. And that little difference, that little thing is what you just described. It's the fact that they don't waste days, they don't waste hours, they don't waste minutes. Okay, I got a couple things I want to ask you about.
Yeah.
Your dad, I didn't know we were going to go there today, but
Yeah.
I just think your dad's like a centerpiece of your life, right?
Yeah.
Like, so you tell me, we're just about to go on live here, and you're like, oh, by the way, his dad's, by the way, had double open heart surgery recently. But I just want to think about these lessons that I think apply to business and life that we learn from just very special people who the world probably won't know.
Yeah.
You know, and I think you're hitting coach.
Yeah.
Frank,
Porco.
right?
Frank
like
Porco,
Frank,
yeah.
like this guy just changed your life,
He was
right?
a labor negotiator with the steel mill. Like,
Incredible.
in the
Never even
unions.
played college
Never played
baseball.
college baseball.
Right. And then he ends up teaching one of the great hitters of his time how to hit. And your dad, with all the mental reps that he told you. And just before we go on here, you guys, he goes, oh, yeah, my dad was actually a Catholic priest.
Yeah.
I went, what did you say? Yeah, my dad was a Catholic priest till he was 30 years old. I went, what? Like, that's not like a minor, it's not like, my dad was once a welder and now he's a chemical salesman. Like, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
So, like, how
Incredible.
much of my gosh,
Yeah.
like, your dad was, you would go to Catholic church on a Sunday and your dad used to be the priest. I mean,
Yeah.
what other things did you
Incredible.
learn from your father that you think are really applicable now in your life
Yeah.
that you've used in baseball and in your life?
Yeah.
What are some of the other things?
Oh man, just incredible. Like I don't tell that story much. I think it's the first time I probably ever
Yeah.
publicly told that. But I'm just so proud of of him. And I guess one of the stories that that he tells, and I love that he tells my kids too, is when he was a priest. I believe he was in Bayport, New York, up in Long Island, right outside Sayville, and it was right in the civil rights movement, probably late '60s, and he was part of 4 busloads that went down of blacks and whites, and they went down to my dad was at the Martin Luther King I Have a Dream speech.
My gosh,
That's incredible.
That's
dude.
incredible.
That's incredible. And I just asked him about that, and amazing, because my dad, I think he was more of like he was trying, back in those days, trying to get housing for blacks in Long Island, and they wouldn't show the houses or whatever was going on, and so the bishops called my dad in. They're like, Father Casey, they're like, you need to cool it with this civil rights stuff. They're like, you're starting to get death threats, and I said. And so my dad at the time, I think, was 26, 27. So I said, Dad, how'd you feel about getting death threats?
Yeah, right.
He goes, I said, bring it on.
Whoa.
He goes, and I said, why? He's like, because I was 26, 27 years old. I was trying to change the world.
Wow.
I was trying to do I was trying to really say, like, what would Jesus do?
Yeah.
In that situation. So my dad's such a special guy. Like, when I look back, he obviously left the priesthood at 30 when a lot of priests were leaving in the late 60s. But
it's obvious, bro. This is where you get your heart from.
Yeah,
I just say it for you.
Yeah.
It's where you get your kindness from.
Yeah.
It's where you get your heart from.
Yeah.
It's where you get your passion from.
Yeah, and my dad.
I'm sure you got it from both your parents, but
Yeah.
clearly your father's a very
Yeah.
unique man.
He's a unique man.
Yeah.
My mom, obviously, I'm very close with her too. But and my dad was, it was almost like it just a lot about how you treat people, people the way you want to treat people, stay humble, just that kind of, a lot of the lessons I probably.
What happened when you got to the big leagues? Was he just like, whoa? Or was it just like, I expected it?
No, I think he was like, whoa. I think we were all like, it was like,
Yeah.
whoa. I remember my dad saying to me one day, he's like, what's the reason you want to play in the big leagues? He said, do you want to play in the big leagues for fame and fortune? Or do you want to play in the big leagues for service and impact? That's what he said to me.
Wow, that's not a normal question.
Yeah, it's not a normal question, but my dad was a philosopher.
Yeah.
He majored in philosophy.
What did you say?
And because, being raised, like, I think I was like, yeah, service and impact, Dad. Because he was always big on, hey, listen, don't forget, people show up, and especially because we grew up in Pittsburgh, hardworking, blue-collar people. Hey, people show up every night when they come. That guy just got home from work.
Yeah.
He picked up his kids to come watch you play.
Wow.
You make sure you give everything you got.
Oh,
You make sure you leave it all on the table, because that might be the only game that guy can afford.
Yeah.
So it was like that mentality of my dad, just like, making sure that it's not just about you. That, like, you got to see other people. And, like, I think the other thing was, like, we talk about service. My dad, one of the things I always tell people, the most selfish thing you'll ever do in your life, you want to be selfish? You want to be really selfish? Go serve somebody else. Because for whatever reason, dude, the soul wants service. Right. So when you serve someone else, you're like, man, I want to keep doing that.
You're so right.
I feel so good doing that. Yeah. You know, Ed, you serve so many people. There's so many people you give back to. Like, man, like, oh, that feels good.
Yeah. You don't hear athletes talk like this, though, Sean. Yeah. This isn't normal. You're not normal. Like, this conversation I knew was going to be special, but, like, I didn't know it was going to go to this depth. And, he is working for the MLB network. He's great on there. I've watched him on there for, quite a while now. Mm-hmm. But now you're starting to do this thing about thinking like a pro. You're taking these things, and you said this thing, like, it took me back. You said it to Jim, and I, like, replayed it, and then I sent it to my son, and then I sent it to my daughter, and it's this good. So I want you to share it with my audience about the G.A.P.S. And it was so good that I've sent it to some of the athletes I work with, too. So talk about that. It's because it's a baseball analogy, but it's a life analogy that's huge.
Yeah. Well, I want to get in, or not want to get in. I'm into coaching. I coach, obviously college athletes, high school, some pro players and all that stuff. But this program I developed, it's called the Powers and the G.A.P.S. And I just wanted to relate it to baseball because when you think of baseball, and Ed, you know as well as I do, you want to be one of the best players in the game? You play in the G.A.P.S.
That's right.
You play in the G.A.P.S. You got to shoot the G.A.P.S. to be one of the best power hitters. Yep. You got to hit the ball out in the G.A.P.S. to be one of the best in the game at the end of the day, right? Yep. Your center fielders, your right fielder, they got to fly into the G.A.P.S. to make a play, right? Yes. And so I look at that like, hey, the power's in the G.A.P.S. in life too. That's what I love about baseball. It mirrors life. Yes. Like, baseball's not easy. Hey, life's not easy too. It wasn't meant to be. Baseball wasn't meant to be either. Life's not meant to be easy. Like, none of us are exonerated from the uncertainty, the hard work, right? And the struggles of life and the struggles of baseball, right? At the end of the day. So the power's in the G.A.P.S. And I thought about, what is it, man? So the G of the G.A.P.S. is that gratitude, man. Are we showing up every day? Are we connecting to what this is all about? Are we connecting to the gratitude of, like, when you wake up in the morning, are you saying, hey, thank you? Oh man, I say this to my kids all the time. If they listen, they're probably gonna listen to this podcast and they're like, oh, here goes Dad jumping off his. Every morning I say to my kids, like, my two daughters are still home, Carly and Julian at her home, but my sons are in college, and I still tell them, and I say, hey man, the chances of you being here of a human being are 1 in 400 trillion, right? And you know that too. You win the life lottery every day. Yeah. Like, right. And so, like, and I think of generational gratitude, right? I think of this, like, so your parents had to meet, then your grandparents had to meet, and then if I go back to my Irish heritage in County Cork, Ireland, the potato famine came, some more cases had decided to have kids, and then if you go back to generations, it's like, it's so ridiculous. Like, a 10th generation grandparent, 4,000 of those people had to get together for Ed Mylett to be here. It's crazy, right? It's incredible. Yeah. So, however awesome you think you are, and awesome thing you think you are, you are. Yeah. And I want to tell people that. I want to be like, dude, you're a walking lottery ticket, bro. Why don't you start living like it? Right? Why don't you start living like it? And that's that gratitude, right? Like, oh yeah, I got up, boom, I hit the thing. Yeah. Hey, thank you. Yeah. For the life force of that, my heart's gonna pump today 100,000 times. I have no idea how that's happening. It's the ultimate gift. Well, I'm gonna breathe 25,000 times today. How's that happening, Ed? I got 50 trillion cells digesting my food. What? Yes. I'm a walking miracle, and so are you. There's only one Ed Mylett, man. There's 8 billion dudes out there and women. There's only one Ed Mylett. There's only one Sean Kicks. And for anyone else out there, guess what? If you think life is tough and this and that, why don't you change it? Why don't you change the narrative? You start to look and you go, no. The narrative really is, you're one of a kind, brother. You're one of a kind. And if we all started to think like that, I don't know. I think the world would be a different place. That's how I think. Man. So when I say the powers and the G.A.P.S, it's in the gratitude, right? It's in the accountability for who you are, of how you think, of what narratives you tell yourself, of what are your stories. It's also in the perspective that you take, in the P, perspective, in your process. And the S of the G.A.P.S, it's also in the service. If you want to connect to this world and connect to people, hey man, serve somebody. How many times does somebody ask you for directions and you go, hey, beat it, dude? If somebody comes up to you, asks you directions, you go, hey man, 2 blocks down here. If you're in Pittsburgh, you don't know the street names. You're like 2 blocks down here, don't know the street name. You make a left at the 7-Eleven. Dude, people want to help. People want to. So find people to serve. You don't necessarily have to go to a soup kitchen or something. Serve your kids. Serve your dad if you have to when he's struggling, or your mom, or
like you're doing.
Yeah, serve people that are in the grocery store. Say hi. You know what I mean? Because they're one of a kind too.
Yeah, bro, the G.A.P.S, that fires me up. I don't know that I've ever felt that much energy from someone who's done this before. No, but I love it because, like, I also think a lot of things in life is in our energy. It's actually how you feel. You're always making people feel something.
Right.
It blows my mind how few human beings are intentional about that thing. Like, you're always making another person feel something. So why not be intentional about what it is? By the way, you are always feeling something. Take some control over that. Right? Take some control over your own energy. Energy is influence. Energy. People respond to what they feel way more than the actual words you say. Like this thing today, people are going to go, that was unbelievable. I almost drove off the road. They were at level 6 on the treadmill. They're at 10. And when it's done, there'll be 2 or 3. They're going to remember the G.A.P.S. They're going to remember your high school story. But at the end, they're going to remember how they felt, how you made them feel. That's how... When you think about someone you love, you can't describe, like, they're smart, they're sick. No, it's how they make you feel. Right? Yeah. So it's the how you feel part of your life. Like, that's one of your magic things, man, is like, anytime I've listened to you, it's why I want people to follow you too. Make sure, what's Instagram for you?
My Instagram is at the mayor's office MLB.
Yeah. By the way, what is that's really not easy to remember. At the mayor's
office.
At the
mayor's office MLB. Major League Baseball.
What's the mayor thing?
Dude, a guy who's the head coach at Ohio State right now. When I was in the Cape Cod League, this guy Bill Mosiello. He was a real serious guy at the time, and I'm like, man, this guy, I don't know if this guy likes me. He's so serious, and I'm, Ed, I'm coming in, hey, what's going on?
Right.
And he's like, bro, dude, you talk to everybody. He goes, it's almost like you're lobbying for votes to be the mayor or something. And it kind of stuck. And I remember Carl Ravitch one time, I hit a ball in the G.A.P. in 1999. I slide in second baseman, and he's like, hey, and that's a rocket right there they call him the mayor. Sean Casey. And all of a sudden, it just kind of stuck. So it's because I'm talking to everybody at first, and dude, I don't know, man. It's that energy. When I remember, who's your favorite guy? Man, Lance Berkman would come and talk about energy. Man, he'd come to first. It's a great conversation. But I just, I love people, man.
I think that energy is the most important thing. And I like when Romy told me to talk with you, he goes, dude, you're not gonna believe this guy's energy. You're literally not gonna believe this dude's energy. And I had already watched you and knew you, but actually meeting you, it's like it's a fact. And like I root for you now. Like, I root for you. I want to ask you this. We only have a few more minutes, but you did go from this dude who wasn't starting as a freshman, to wasn't getting any looks in high school, to this incredible career. That's, by the way, you've also been so good. You stayed in the game. You're on the MLB network. You've been in baseball a long time, right? Yeah. You're around the game still. I think people listen to this want to know if it's worth it. Like, you made your dream come true. Right? I don't know if it ever dawned on you because you're still doing it, but like you had a dream in your life and you did it. Now you got new dreams and bigger dreams, of course. But you made a dream come true. What does it feel like? Take us into that. Like, what does it feel like to have that at bat in the World Series, or look back now, or at any point in your life? Your father, and he's getting older. He's 82 years old. He's had 2 open heart surgeries. His son, Sean Casey. His son played in the big leagues. His son's on TV. His son's influence. His son's on my show right now, going to move millions of people. His son is like really had a pretty darn good run so far. It didn't just stop with baseball. And by the way, when he played baseball, he was in service to other people. He did inspire other people. Lots of guys that finish the game talk about Sean Casey. Now he's on TV. Now he's going to start with his pro stuff where he's going to help people. What does it feel like to make a dream come true? Take us into it for a minute.
It's humbling, I think, more than anything, because I guess you look back at your career and you go, we moved to Pittsburgh when I was 5 from New Jersey. Wow, we don't want to be in Pittsburgh. Yeah, you do. Frank Porco's there 9 years later. Yeah, you want to be in Pittsburgh. Oh, yeah. I look back and I have so much gratitude for so many people. Coach McQueen at University of Richmond drove 6 hours. Yeah. You drove 6 hours on a letter? Like, thank you. Like, thank you to Mark McQueen. Thank you to Frank Porco. Thank you to Jim K. Thank you to Harvey Dorfman for writing a book that turned out to be just something that, I just embraced. Like, so when I look back, it's just humbling because I know I just didn't get there on my own. There was a lot of people along the way. I go back to my first at bat, and I just hit a home run to win the AAA championship. call me in the office. Mark Shapiro, who's now was now at the time was the minor league director of the Indians. They call me in the office. We're all cheering, but we just won it in Iowa. We go in there. They call me in the office. Hey, Case, great job, great home run. Let's go. We're so excited. Your season's not over. You're going to the big leagues. And I'm like, I got still telling a story. And I'm like, I couldn't believe it. Like, you're meeting a team tomorrow in Chicago. Well, at the time there was no cell phones. So I go bolting out of the clubhouse, right? And the clubhouse is in in left field. So I go bolting out of the clubhouse. Lights are still on the stadium. There's cornfields in the back. It was like a Field of Dreams moment. Yeah. Cornfields. I go running to the concourse. I got my mom gave me like a credit card back then. Hey, Shawnee, you need to call collect, use this credit card. You know, so bam, I'm the only one in the thing. I call, my mom, my dad answers. My mom and dad answer. I go, hey, guys. There's no internet back then. He was streaming. I go, I just hit a home run to win the AAA championship. And then I start bawling. Yeah. I'm like, and I just got called up to the big leagues. Like, I'm going to meet the team tomorrow, in Chicago. Incredible. And I remember my dad just saying, like, we'll be there. We'll be there. And the next day, we get to Chicago. I don't think I get to see my parents for the game because they were flying in. So I but I know they're behind the dish, right? I know they're behind the plate. And 4 of my crazy college friends are down the left field line. I could see them. I'm like, all right, let's keep them down the left field line, right? So in the 8th inning, Johnny Goro, who was the bench coach at the time, comes out and goes, hey, Case. And I'm crushing sunflower seeds. I'm like, just don't get me in the game. I'm just so glad to be here, right? He's like, hey, man. Dave Justice gets up. Now, these names are Dave Justice. Yeah. I'm in the same freaking sentence as Dave Justice. Yeah. Dave Justice gets up. You're pinch hitting for him. I'm like, oh, my God. So now I'm watching it play out. Matt Williams is up before. These guys are loaded, 97. You know that team. Incredible. Matt Williams, Dave Justice getting up there. Hey, Case, you're up. So I'm like, whoa, what? So I go over, and I realize our equipment never came from Iowa, the Buffalo guys. So now, bro, and when you come to the big leagues, you got the one flap. You're like, we're in the big leagues, you get the one ear flap. You got the 2 ear flaps. College and the minors, You get the 1 ear flap. You're like, oh my gosh. But I don't have an ear flap. So now I can start rummaging through the helmets. I find one 7 1/4 lefty. It's Tony Fernandez. I don't know it. I don't know Tony. I don't know anybody. Right. But I got to saddle up here. So I go up to Tony. Hey, Tony, 7 1/4 lefty helmet. I'm about to hit for Dave Justice. Any chance I can borrow your helmet? He goes, mi hermano, it's all yours. I'm like, well, let's go. So I got a helmet. Jeff Manto, who was at AAA at the time, I'm like, hey, Mick, you're my buddy. I need your batting gloves. He's like, take them. So now and too, this, bats are everything. Yeah. The model of the bat you swing is everything. You can't go for your first AB and be like, oh, I've never swung this model before because I need to have the perfect weight, balance, grip. So I'm rummaging through the bats. Jim told me, wow, that's like Paul Bunyan. He goes back down 40 ounce. I start, Matt Williams, I'm like, God, I can't. Manny Ramirez, T141 Louisville. That's my bat. So I have to go up to Manny Ramirez. Oh, my gosh. And dude, I just got caught. Hey, Manny, any chance I could use your bat?
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Go ahead, my friend. So I go out there. Tony Fernandez's helmet.
Oh, my gosh.
Jeff Manto's batting gloves and Manny Ramirez's bat.
Oh, my gosh.
Right? Well, the one thing that my dad and I always had was I called the Jim Casey fist pump. My whole life, from 6 years old on, playing baseball, whenever I would come up on deck, I'd look over. My dad would, big fist pump, big Jim Casey. So I get on deck, get my stuff on, and now you can imagine what my parents felt to see their son come on deck. Oh, my gosh, in the Comiskey field. So I come up on deck, and my dad stands up and gives the double Jim Casey fist pump. First time in the history. I'm like, oh, my gosh. Double. Do a double. Do a double. He threw a double Casey fist pump. It was incredible. So I go out there, my first at-bat, facing this guy named Jeff Darwin. Boom, he paints me like 2 pitches. I'm in a spirit world. I don't even know where I'm at. All that process, I have zero process. I'm like, I'm so stressed out, anxiety ridden. Darwin's throwing 90. It looks like 107. So he gets me to 1-2, and I'm like, I remember stepping out and taking a breath, and I go, I'm not punching out my first at bat. Like, get your act together. You haven't even seen 3 pitches. Your dad's giving you a double fist pump. You got Tony Fernandez's helmet, Manny Ramirez's bat. What the hell is going on here? So I get back in, I take a breath. It was like that moment. I was like, okay, so boom, throws me 1-2 slider, bam, knock to right. Single, first at bat. I get the first. My dad's going crazy. I thought I was going to get arrested. He's going crazy. My mom's going crazy. My buddies are going crazy down the line. And that was the moment where I looked back and I go, I did it.
Oh, my God.
I did it. Like, if I don't get another at bat. Yeah. And if I don't get another at bat. that conversation at 14 years old, and the guy that's in the stands right now that's going absolutely crazy, we did it.
Oh, bro.
You know, we did it.
It's maybe the best freaking story I've ever heard. Dude, this was so freaking good today. It was so good today. Oh my gosh.
Thank you, bro, for having me on. I'm
bro,
so grateful,
I want to thank you. And millions of people are grateful. That story. Did you do that on purpose? You just tied the whole podcast together with the first thing we talked about.
No, it's like it was taking your lead, brother. Taking your lead.
That was unbelievable. Oh, I love you, brother.
Incredible, bro. Thank you.
Think like a pro.
Yes. Yeah, Breakthrough Pro.
Where'd they go?
Yeah, well, you can go to SeanCasey.live.
Okay.
You can go there, keynote speak, all that stuff, you know. But
you want a dude to come fire up your group. Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
What an amazing experience this was today for me, man. And I'm so glad that you even exceeded the introductions and recommendations for you, man. You're a remarkable man.
Thank you, dude.
I'm really grateful. You've been in my life for a long time.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks a lot, man. Thanks a lot.
Jeez, this was good today. If you aren't fired up right now, if you didn't write some notes, if you aren't ready to do something great, you got some major problems. I don't know what I can do for you. I don't know what else I can do for you. I just gave you the juice. Thank you, Sean. You guys share. This is the #1 growing show on the planet for a reason, because you keep sharing this thing. Share this thing. Go get my book, The Power of One More.
Yes, great book.
And if you really want to change your life, go to the Change on Nosy or Change on YouTube, my show Change. You'll see me intervene in actual people's lives and change their life as well. But, man, this is why I do this show, is what we did together today, man.
I got a podcast, too, called At the Mayor's Office Podcast.
Get it, at the Mayor's Office.
We talk a little baseball. We talk about the mental side, a lot of it, too.
Okay, guys, go there. Go get it. And
thank you, bro. This has been incredible. I'm so grateful for it. Thank you.
It's a 25 out of 10. All right, you guys, God bless you. Max out.